Business Insights on Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson.
Hello, welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm Rose Davidson, podcast coach and indie host, helping entrepreneurs amplify their voices. And today, my guest is Christiane Schroeter, and we're going to be diving into how we can start smaller and what is the secret to growth. Now, Christiane is a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and creator of the Petite Practice method. She's got a Ph.D. in health economics and a career spent guiding entrepreneurs, educators, and high performers. And she's discovered a surprising truth, and we're going to learn all about that later. It's sustainable growth doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less with intention. Christiane is a professor of marketing and entrepreneurship and the host of the Happy Health Hustle podcast, and we'll talk about that as well. It's ranked in the top 1% globally. Her work blends strategy with psychology, clarity with curiosity, and action with purpose. Through her coaching, courses, and keynote talks, she teaches business owners how to stop chasing perfection and start creating meaningful progress, one small step at a time. Christiane, thank you so much for joining me here on Talking with the Experts.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Rose. I love the introduction. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome, and it's such a pleasure to meet you. Now, most entrepreneurs are taught to aim high, and not to reach the top quickly. And, that can be quite a challenge. So how can we stop ourselves from, the hype that, even our mentors and coaches are promoting?
Yeah, actually, there's nothing wrong with aiming high, but it's good if you aim high and you think about the plan, how to get there. So if you think about it as a pyramid and your goal is on the top of this pyramid, right? There's two ways to get there. You could take these weekly big goals that you set yourself within the next week, I have to do that. Or you could even say within the next month, I could do that. Or instead of saying within the next week, you could say, all right, within the next 7 days, I'm going to do that. So each day of those 7 days, I'm going to break it down into these small steps that we call Petite Practice, as we listened in your introduction. So if you break down a month into 30 days or a week into 7 days, all of a sudden that goal becomes a lot more actionable because you're actually making it digestible. There's this funny saying, how do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it's the exact same situation where you're reaching your big goal, but you're taking it one step at a time.
Yeah, and that's a really great philosophy to have. I mean, I usually don't plan things. I just have an epiphany. I dive in and work out the details later. And, most times it works out. That's how I started this podcast. I just thought, well, let's just start a podcast to help others during the pandemic. And I'll work out how to be a podcaster afterwards. And I've been doing this for 5 years and I'm still learning. So, it's growth at the same time. But, if I had known then what I know now, I would have started differently, I think. So it's really important to know, where you want to head in the first place, I think.
Oh, it's actually sounding just like my story there, Rose. I started my podcast on March 23rd, 2023. So just coming out of that pandemic, I guess, right? And yeah, it was the same thing. I thought, I should start a podcast. And looking back now, I laugh about myself, how naive I was, and just in that one spur moment to getting started with recording things on a cell phone and looking around and looking at my husband and saying, I think podcasts have guests. Why aren't you my first guest? So, but then think about where we are now. Rose and I, we run podcasts, and that's probably the second learning moment that I had in my life. So the first learning moment was that small steps matter because they create big impact. And the second learning moment is really that consistency always beats that moment where you're like, all right, I'm just going to do just a little bit on this one day, even though I don't feel like it. So consistently always beats that feeling of like, oh, I'm going to wait for tomorrow. Because if you just do a little bit on that day and you stay consistent, on the next morning when maybe you feel a bit better and you have more energy, you look back and you're like, I'm so glad I showed up for myself yesterday and I published that podcast. And maybe the next episode is going to be a little longer. That was maybe a shorter episode, but we still show up consistently because at the end of the day, there are people waiting now for the podcast. And that's something too. You're changing people's lives.
Absolutely. No, and I absolutely love my podcast. I went from doing 6 episodes 5 days a week. So I was doing 30 episodes a week. And honestly, after about 6 months, I'd had enough. I had to like just stop. Because
Yeah, it wasn't exactly small steps, wasn't it? Huh?
No, there's just to get out there and do it. Yeah, it was too much. And tell me, Christiane, I'd love you to share your philosophy behind the Petite Practice and what is it, and how can people use it to take those small steps.
Yeah, so the small steps could be applied to any area of your life. So if you run a business, think about all these things you have on your to-do list. And there could be big things, there could be smaller things, but your to-do list is never ending, right? And every day you look at it and you're trying to tackle that big, long to-do list of 25 different things. And at the end of the day, you think, oh, I only got 3 things scratched off. So how about rewording that thinking and take a petite practice by just taking 3 things from your very long to-do list and write them on your daily to-do list and then actually finish those. And then praise your progress at the end of the day that you finished them. And on the next day, do the same. Take 3 things, put it on your to-do list. At the end of the day, celebrate your ta-da list for getting those 3 things done. And that will actually create momentum because you're moving the needle. Instead of looking at a to-do list where only 3 things are scratched off, you're looking at a to-do list where everything gets scratched off. All 3 things, you got it. And that is, from a psychology perspective, tremendously powerful because it really builds those endorphins of joy and you're giving yourself a high five. You can even share with your family, I got everything done today, or your friends or your colleagues. And I think eventually you're really going to feel when you get up, I can do this. I can get things done. And that is really the shift in the Petite Practice that you're creating, that you're setting yourself up for success instead of setting yourself up for failure by just overwhelming yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't envy the women who, the night before will sit down and write a to-do list and, it's got about 20 things on it. And the next day they look at the list and think, oh my God, and, quite right. Make the list small so that it's achievable and, don't overwhelm yourself because you think that you failed if you didn't get through all 20 things. And I think, no, don't even do that. I mean, I don't even write lists. I just think I'll just get up and do this and that and something else. I know that I've achieved something because I feel good about myself.
And I love that you actually really tie this into females because we tend to be really hard on ourselves. It already starts in the language. And I remember when I had my first child, and I was so used to a clean household and not having things sitting dishes in the sink and laundry being done. And all of a sudden, I had to take care of another human being. And it was just totally throwing my whole routine overboard. And at the end of the day, that human being mattered so much more than any dishes, laundry, or to-do lists. And that's what you have to keep reminding yourself, that what you do matters so much more than any to-do list. And those moments, connecting with people, really leaving a mark in the world, your legacy matters so much more than scratching off that other to-do list. And I mean, I think that we are our own harshest critiques, and that's something that we should all learn to become a little bit more, proud of actually what we accomplish instead of always looking what we didn't accomplish.
Yes. I think that you're right. It is the female trait, I think, and it's ingrained in us from early childhood that, if we don't do this, don't do that, then we're not achieving anything. But, realistically, if you even achieve one thing on your to-do list, and you should give yourself kudos for that.
Completely. And I also think that it's sometimes a little bit just reminding yourself that there are so many moments in your life where you already accomplished things without even like working for it. It sometimes even helps to think, where was I 5 years ago? Right? 5 years ago, when you started your podcast, Rose, you were in a completely different space.
Mm.
So now what happened in those 5 years has been tremendous. How your business has changed, how you have changed, all what you learned. And I think that is just a good moment to also not always look up and, where others are or where you could be comparing yourself, but rather look at where was I 5 years ago? That's quite amazing what I all accomplished and celebrate that. So just
Yeah.
pause for a second instead of just moving forward, pausing and reflecting on what worked and also what didn't work. So when you keep moving forward, that you take that into consideration.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the little more steps that we do take, during our day, during our week, during a month, during our life, lead us to bigger and better things. And, when we do reflect on them, especially when we're feeling a bit lost or not so good about ourselves, if we take a look back to the things that we have accomplished, really we've achieved quite a bit. And, we take ourselves for granted quite often.
Yeah. And actually, when I was giving my TEDx talk and standing on that stage, the first thing that I thought when I stood there was, oh my gosh, I feel like home. And then the second thought that I had when I stood there was, how many times did I practice that? That I always rather stayed consistent with my practice and went through the talk, whatever, 3 times per day, 5 times per day. But I just kept that up, that repetition, even on days when when my family said, I think I know your talk now by heart as well. I just went through it. And when I stood on that stage, I thought all these petite practices, the little moments, completely paid off because I knew that talk so well that I just had a great time standing there. And I think that was really what many athletes do as well, that you sometimes look at an athlete that won a contest and you think, oh my gosh, that amazing moment. But winning isn't comfortable. It's the whole journey that led there. So the TEDx talk, it was like weeks and months of preparation. But in that moment when I stood on that stage, I was so happy I did it. And you can see it in the video. I just have the biggest smile and I'm just like loving it and interacting with the audience. And I think those petite practices are also reminding us that we can achieve big goals. We just have to keep showing up for ourselves, for others, and really thinking about the lives that we change. Because there were people in the audience that reached out to me afterwards and they shared their stories with me that came up during my talk, and it was really emotional. And I think that's really what we are here to do, right? Changing other people's life, one small step at a time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I got an email this morning from Buzzsprout. I've only just recently changed to them to host the podcast, and I it's only been, I don't know, less than 6 months, and I had 2,500 downloads, and I thought,
Oh.
I mean, that's not like huge in the overall scheme of things, but for me, in that 6 months to get that many downloads was absolutely amazing, and I was jumping for joy, and I couldn't wait to share the news. And I think, all the hard work has been paying off. And I think, if we as humans take those little wins and celebrate them in some way, it makes the harder times less painful.
Yeah. Like maybe even write down some thoughts that you had during those moments or record yourself when you found out and share it with the world, or even watch it on those days when it's maybe hard. So when I found out that I'm going to be a TEDx speaker, I recorded myself and I posted it on YouTube, and that YouTube short nearly get as many views now as my whole TEDx talk, because I'm crying in the video and I'm super emotional because it was always my dream to do that. And then I watched the TEDx video when it was released, and I watched it with my friend. who came to the talk, and she said, "We're going to watch this together now. Even though I was at the talk, I want to watch it together with you." And so I had her on speakerphone, and I watched the recording, and I really started crying. And I'm getting like really emotional about this now too. But it was so special to watch the video and having her there that she said, "You need to record this right now," because people know that wasn't like some like career thing that you had. It was really something personal for you. It was something that you really wanted to share, a message. And coaches frequently help others because they underwent some struggle. And by looking at the transformation, the learning that happened is really what they can help you with. And when I stood on that stage, I knew that there is something I can help others with. And I hope I'm impacting other people's lives. So, okay, now I'm not crying anymore.
And it
Yeah,
is important as coaches and even as humans, that we can see that what we do matters.
exactly.
My passion project is helping survivors of domestic violence because I'm a
Mhm.
survivor myself.
Mhm.
And I've just recently come out of a relationship, that wasn't so great. But, for me to have that lived experience, I think gives me a better understanding about what other survivors are going through. So even through the podcast, helping business owners is, that was my aim in the very beginning. And people said, well, why don't you monetize your podcast? But my thinking is that I'm not here to make money out of it. I would just want to help people. And,
Mm.
they think I'm crazy.
Well, it's the same for me, right? It's my podcast is my passion, and I also want to keep it kind of equal to where I'm feeling I I owe that to my audience, that I can share that recording with them, but at the same time, it's something to where I don't feel like they necessarily need to pay to listen to, because I know that when I create it, it gives me joy. And I don't know, it would be the same if I were to get paid for it. I would nearly feel like it's not the same anymore. I would my the energy would shift a little bit. Right
I think
now
so.
it's like positive energy, and I don't want to make this like a project to where I feel this is like an income stream in my business, because it's far more important than that. Money is just
Absolutely.
energy, right? And it's not about the money in this case.
Yeah, same. I'm the same. I'm just it just wouldn't be the same if I was charging my guests or charging people to come on or to listen or whatever. I mean, I'm happy to, look for sponsors, but I'm not happy to charge people to listen to an episode. I just don't think
Mhm.
it's but anyway, that's my philosophy on it. Anyway,
Oh, that's beautiful.
Christiane, how can we have a repeatable mindset shift that builds clarity, focus, and results in our businesses and in our personal life?
I think that most importantly is to figure out why you're doing it. So Rose and I, we just shared why we are doing it. She shared her personal struggle. I shared my personal struggle, like really reaching goals that were important to you, no matter what it is. The repeatable action and the mindset really comes when you figure out what you want to accomplish. And I know that I sometimes talk to clients and students, and they're kind of at first, they're not sure. And then they're not sure whether they think I'm going to laugh about it or others. And I think that is really where we have to, as coaches, create that feeling of trust that they can be vulnerable and they can share it. Because once people share what their goals are, right? It's really this saying it out loud, the telling to others, it makes your goal real and it brings your goal into the present moment, to where you're feeling it's here with us now in the room. So how are we going to tackle this together? And that will create consistency, because you put it out there, and then you actually feel, all right, so now let's set a timeline, let's reverse engineer, let's do this together. I think that's really, it has to come from you, and you have to be in charge of explaining to me exactly what you want to do, and then I can help you get there. Because at the end of the day, I can motivate people right and left, but I feel it's much more than motivation. It's inspiration. Yeah, the inspiration is inside you. You just have to tap into it.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, and sometimes it takes a little bit of shifting to find that momentum that we, and that little push. And sometimes it just helps for someone to be a little bit strict with us and say, you can do it, and stop sitting in the background and just step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it actually just presented at a writers' conference last weekend. And so one of my books is called How to Master Your Goals. And so my talk was about how to master your goals, right? And I shared it with authors in the room, and most of them had already finished their books and they put it out in the world. And some of them are wondering why nobody's buying it. And I said, well, it's a little bit like the runway before and then middle and then after, right? So the goal isn't just to publish the book. The goal is also to get the books into the hands of people. So the mastering of the goal is, in essence, to me, it's like the never-ending journey. It's not like we can just sit down and say, done. That's not really how it works. You have to think, all right, so now, yes, the book is published. But I can only really master the goal when people are actually finding out about it and that the book reaches the audience that it's intended for. And so I explained to them about building anticipation and launching the book and then the runway after. And sometimes that's really what I have to tell clients. It's like, let's just do this, right? I know it's not comfortable for you to show your face, but at the beginning, it could just be like a little quote or something if you want to share the anticipation leading to that book launch. And then afterwards, again, it doesn't have to be big, just sending like a quick little email about what you did and what your book's characters are, anything like that. But that sometimes requires some nagging. But then one lady after the conference shared with me that she posted her first Instagram post, and that was exceptionally a high five moment for her there. And I was like, yay, you're getting the word out. I like it.
Absolutely. If you want to find out more about Christiane, you can find her on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. She's also got a website, drchristiane.com. She's on Amazon, LinkedIn, as I said. She's got 2 pages, perhaps. No, just the one. TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, on Threads, and you can find her on X as well. Tell me a little bit about your quiz, Christiane.
Yeah, I would love for you to take that Discover Your Superpower quiz, because you might just learn something about yourself that would let you tap into the best way to get there, because you will get personalized results that will create those petite practices for you to reach that.
Wonderful. And tell me a little bit about your podcast. What's it called and where can people find it?
Happy, Healthy Hustle. So we're going to make your hustle just a little happier and healthier. And it is on all podcast platforms. And I would love for you to tune in on your way to or from work, picking up laundry, kids, dogs, whatever it is. It's short episodes. There are truly petite practices, and they will bring a smile to your face. And maybe you are going to learn even something how to master your goals.
Wonderful. Christiane, it's been such a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for joining me here on Talking with the Experts.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts with Rose Davidson, the podcast that brings you real stories, bold insights, and strategies that work. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube or your favourite podcast channel so you never miss an episode, and dive into our full library anytime at talkingwiththeexperts.com. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep talking with the experts.